Hello, everyone, and welcome to a conversation with Trojan Marinex. My name is Erica Nordio from LabTest Certification, one of your hosts today. And joining me as well is Gersher Sidhu, also from LabTest Certification, and our account manager and project engineer for the Hazardous Locations Equipment Department. Our special guest today is Mr. Glenn Latimer, engineering manager in the ballast water group at Trojan Marinex. Hi, Glenn. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good. Thank you. So this is our second podcast for this series. And just to give listeners an idea of what it's all about, a conversation with is a set of interviews with some of our longtime clients and partners, a virtual coffee chat, really, to see how everyone is doing and adapting to this challenging situation, which is the coronavirus global pandemic. So the idea came from asking ourselves, how can we help? And because we're really all in this together, our hope was that through our chats, people could gain some good insights, maybe from listening to our guests, and who also might be in the same type of business as they are. So I will hand it over to Gersher now to facilitate our chat with our guest. So Gersher.
Hello, everyone. It's a very bright and sunny day in Vancouver today. So I guess about 4 years ago in 2016, I got involved with Trojan Marinex first project, which was for the IECX approval for the ballast water treatment system. And over the years, we have worked on other approvals as well. So Glenn, I guess starting off, maybe if you can tell us a little bit about what Trojan Marinex does and about yourself as well, so that our listeners can know a little bit better about the company.
Oh, okay. Trojan Marinex is a part of Trojan Technologies that was started to address the need in the ballast water treatment market. This was started quite some time ago, probably I would say close to 10 years ago, back when the ballast water need was basically just the very beginning. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even a regulation yet. It was something that was proposed, and Trojan saw the need for this when it would eventually become a worldwide regulation. So we started working on a ballast water treatment system. As I say, quite some time ago. Most of our competitors in that marketplace, well, actually, there was almost no competitors in that marketplace at the time because, it was just a brand new market. Not even customers knew what kind of product they would need because nobody had ever had to treat ballast water before. So everybody kind of had their own way of going about this. And I would say most of our competitors ultimately ended up going with a type of a product that was, let's say, converted from other industries. For instance, a UV system that was converted from for instance, municipal drinking water UV system, and then a filtration system that was converted from, I think most of them kind of had their roots in irrigation technologies that were out there. But Trojan, actually, what we did was we decided to start from scratch. Even though we had plenty of UV technologies, that Trojan has sold over the years and currently sells between the wastewater and the drinking water UV business. We chose to actually develop an entire system completely from scratch. And so this was it was a new development within Trojan. We looked at the requirements that we thought would be important for the marine industry, given that these were going to be needed on ships that had been designed without ballast water treatment systems. So we knew that size would be very important because if you've ever been on a ship, they're tightly crammed with equipment already. And if you hadn't already designed your ship for another piece of equipment, well, we knew that space would be important. The same thing for power requirements. Again, the ship was designed to be able to handle the equipment that was on board and was designed with only minimal extra power. And so we knew that the ballast water treatment system couldn't draw an excessive amount of power. So with those kinds of things in mind, we decided to, as I say, start from scratch. And we developed new lamp technology and new filter technology and a completely new package that would be very small in footprint. And so that took quite a lot of effort, on our part. And then obviously we've expanded that technology into the explosion-proof markets too. As you know, there's many ships that require explosion-proof equipment, and so thankfully the design that we started out with our equipment lent itself pretty well to being able to achieve explosion-proof certification with that equipment as is. Not that it wasn't easy, as you guys very well know, what we had to go through in some of the modifications to the equipment for explosion proof. But yeah, I mean, we supply equipment to the marine industry for ballast water treatment around the world, and we're quite proud of the equipment we've designed and how it differentiates itself from the competition that's out there.
Oh, wow, that's very insightful. Thank you.
Thank you. I think if there's someone listening that's never heard of a product like yours, that was a great explanation. Anyone will know now and understand how it works. Thank you.
Yeah. I guess on the other side now, given the situation we're all going through currently with COVID-19, how is everybody at the company and their families? And we hope that everybody's healthy and safe.
Yes, they are. We've had very few instances, I think, at the main manufacturing facility in London, Ontario. I think we've had a couple of potential cases that I don't believe really ended up to be real cases. We were, I think, pretty well prepared for this, in that our parent corporation, Danaher, had been really looking at this early on from almost the beginning of the year. We had been getting advisories, all the way up through and into February, and Danaher came out with some travel bans that began in February, I think late February, early March, and we all started to prepare for the potential to have to work from home. We were given, my supervisor gave me the heads up, more than a week before the first travel ban hit, that said, hey, look, you guys might want to consider, what are we going to do if we have to work from home? Not that we're being given that order, not at all, we are not, but this, who knows what's going to happen here, and maybe we need to look at this. Fortunately for, I should say, the company as a whole, Danaher and Trojan, they had started already making the conversion over to Microsoft Teams. And so that was well underway, just coincidentally, when this all hit. And that I would say, probably sped up that process. So with some of those things already put in place, we took those warnings that we may have a potential, work from home requirement. Our team in Marinex, we made sure that those who didn't already have the capability to work from home, for instance, I already did have that capability in my home office here. All of the equipment was already in place, so that was no big deal for me. But some of the others in the group have had to work from home from time to time, especially the people that work off hours. As I say, we have clients all around the world, and so you need to be prepared for dealing with any service issues or commissionings that might be taking place, let's say in China, where it's 12 hours off. So some of the people have already had to have, laptops and remote equipment anyway that would enable them to work from home. The biggest problem was some of our designers whose equipment is pretty. They're very powerful desktop machines, not easily portable, and so in that kind of warning time, we took the advantage, got them issued laptops, and then worked out a way to work through their their desktop machines with their laptops from home, so we can continue design and development work. And so through our Microsoft Teams, we have our morning meeting with the entire team, like we always did when we were at the facility. Every morning we would have what we call a stand-up meeting at 9 in the morning. And we do that now. We just do it all remotely. Everybody has their cameras, and we all work, separately from home. It's been an interesting experience, and the one thing I will give the team great credit, because we have all of our list of things that we were looking to work on and listed on our schedule and on our action plans for this year. We've obviously had to make some adjustments to that. You can only take projects and development so far before you kind of reach the point where you need to put your hands on it and you need to actually install it and test it. And that's where we've kind of had to adjust things. We've taken some of those projects and designed them, from home, and even gone as far as to order some prototypes. The prototypes have been delivered, and they're sitting on people's desks back at the plant, waiting to be, installed and worked on, and those kind of things. So what we've done is we've kind of shifted to a model where we do the things that are best done remotely. And then, it might not be the things that we actually had on our plan to do right now. We've had to kind of adjust our schedule some so that we're taking the best advantage of the remote working environment that we can. There are some tasks that really lend themselves well to working from home and working remotely. And then there's other things that don't. And so we've just kind of had to shift our priorities around. But as I say, I'm quite proud of the team, and that they've kind of they've found new ways to do things, and to keep making progress, despite the conditions. We have lots of team members with little kids, and I've got to know them all. Everybody's pets, and so it's been a great experience from that standpoint. It's new and it's different, but I can't wait to be able to see the people in person, hopefully one of these days pretty soon.
Of course.
Yeah, no, that's definitely very good to hear that you guys were able to adjust way before the actual restrictions came in. So we're very happy to kind of hear that. And
yeah,
I know there are a few challenges that you have already mentioned that kind of came up in that process that are being worked out now and looking at different ways of doing things. And on the other hand, were there any frontline employees that your company had that we could thank through this call as well?
Well, we're in the municipal water and wastewater, marine, industrial treatment business. So a lot of the equipment some of the equipment, I should say, that we make at Trojan can be used in some of those areas, but not directly. Danaher in general has many companies that are in the medical field, for instance. Again, most of those I don't believe are directly on the front line, but do make the equipment that many of those frontline users depend on. And so I think the company has done a really good job at keeping those things going. They've made it clear that the service and operation of all of those kinds of equipment is number one priority, and we're doing what we can do to make sure that happens. Outside of that, many of us have family members who obviously are on the front line working in those industries. I myself have 2 daughters who are nurses. Working for a major hospital with this, so yeah, my hat's off to all of those folks who are really on the front lines keeping this going. So
and thank your daughters from us too.
Yeah.
We keep thanking the healthcare workers, but when you do know someone, then it's always nice to be able to send that message.
It is, and it's kind of interesting as a parent. When my daughters said they were going into nursing, my first thought was, well, that's a really good field, because in the United States here, there's really no such thing as an unemployed nurse. You pretty much, wherever you want, you have a job, and so that's a really good career choice. And then when this hit, I'm not so sure. As a father, you worry about your kids, but they they take it really well, and I talk to them. I video chat with them several times a week, and kind of keep tabs on them. And they're doing really well, and
Good.
luckily the hospital that they work at has not been hit too hard, and you know, they don't seem to be worried about it as much for their own health. They worry about you know, obviously I haven't seen them, you know, in person for a long time because they don't want to go visiting anybody else in case,
Yes.
you know, that's their biggest worry is getting somebody else sick. So they pretty much keep themselves isolated except for going to work, and so anyway. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Hopefully, we'll all soon be able to give each other a big hug and
I'm,
be in the
I'm,
same
I'm,
room.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. This is yeah, this is a unique experience, but I'd certainly rather it be over.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And you also mentioned a little bit about, getting to know different people on, more level than you used to, even if it's your employees or your team members. You mentioned about pets. So I guess everybody from your company is getting to know Zoe as well, your dog.
Yes. Yes.
Where
Yes.
is she? We thought that she was going to join us today. Oh.
She's laying on the other side of the desk.
Okay, listening in.
Yeah.
That works. And what were some of the challenges that you guys are, let's say, currently facing by working remotely? As you already mentioned, you can only take a product so far. I mean,
Yeah.
have you had to make any changes like alternative work arrangements into place at work where people can still do those duties if absolutely needed?
Yes, at the factory, you know, we've been under orders to try to limit the number of people in the factory at one time, and so I think the production floor, you know, they've got a lot of rules that they have to abide by with the social distancing and meetings. You know, basically all meetings now are like this. They're all remote. You know, I don't know that the meeting rooms are used at all back at Trojan in London anymore. And in the office area, you know, a factory that might have hundreds of people in it, you know, are now down to, you know, a dozen or 24 people in it at any one given time, keeping everybody spread apart. And we make sure that, you know, we know exactly who's in the office and who's not in the office. For instance, most of my team, they do work remotely, and we do once in a while go into the office, and it's planned to go in, and what are you going to do when you get there, and you know, so it's very deliberate as to, you know, when somebody has to go in, it's only one person, and what are they going to do, and we make sure we stay closely tied together such that if somebody's going in and somebody else needs a couple of things done or pictures taken of this or that or whatever, you know, when that person goes in, they've got a whole laundry list of things that you know, that they need to maybe accomplish for some of their teammates. And so we've kind of handled that, I think, pretty well. But, you know, obviously there are limitations. As I say, we have our own test facility located up there that is capable of running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is where we do life cycle testing for some of the various development changes that we might want to make in the ballast water system, for instance. And so, you know, that is not operating now. And, you know, because there are real limits on what we can do there given the situation. So, as I say, we've had to we get things up to the point where you test it, and then we kind of have to leave it sit until we're able to come into the office. But otherwise, I mean, we work worldwide. We have vendors and customers all around the globe, and so that's certainly presented a number of challenges, you know, with not being able to get things done. We've got contracts in place for testing, for instance, in Europe that we cannot do. We've had to put on hold because, well, we're under a travel ban. I mean, nobody in Danaher is allowed to leave the company or the country that they live in. And many of us are under even more restrictive stay at home, like I am in the state of Ohio here. We're not basically allowed to go out unless it's an absolute necessity to go to the grocery store or to the drugstore or something. Or if you're a frontline worker, for instance, you go to work. But the rest of us are pretty much stay at home. So there are a number of things that you just can't do. I kind of predict that once all this is finished and we're allowed to travel and do some of those things again, there's going to be an awful backlog of things that needs to get taken care of, and so there's going to be, I suspect, a lot of travel that's got to get crammed into now a tighter amount of time, and just trying to catch up on all the things that we couldn't do before. So we definitely have to be prepared for that.
Well, I'm just thinking of the lineups at the hairdressers and barbers after this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
I've already booked my appointment with mine for whenever. First one in line.
I've seen a lot of home haircuts, and it's quite interesting.
Yeah. No, definitely. I guess it's good to see that there's more collaboration coming out of this as well. As you mentioned, other team members are doing, more work for the team members that can't be at the office, and you just plan it well that way. So I've definitely seen that among our team as well, where there's more collaboration via the online tools, and everybody has more empathy to help each other, kind of thing. Is there anything good that you see kind of coming out of this, uncommon or unprecedented situation we're in right now, that will continue to be a good kind of facet for the company?
Well, I think the being forced to work from home and work remotely, you've had to discover new ways of doing things. And some of those ways you've found that you wouldn't have thought you could do things remotely, but it turns out you can. And so there are some of those things that I think will continue on, like a lot of these video meetings that we have. For instance, we used to have kind of design reviews or brainstorming sessions about particular part of the system that we think we want to make an improvement to, or make some changes to. And we used to schedule these big meetings in the office, where we all sit around a big table and a big screen, and I'll get together for that. And as it turns out, I just held one of the very first one of those. I held about 2 or 3 weeks ago with our group, and we did it remotely. And as it turns out, you can do that just as well with everybody with their own cameras all together, and somebody putting the drawing right up on the screen in front of us and spinning it around. And I'd have to say that part of it was surprisingly effective. I was quite surprised and pleased to see that. So I think with us learning how to work from home and do remote things, I think that will probably end up, at least part of that will end up being more ingrained, going forward with us. Same thing with some of our long distance, partners, our vendors and our customers, where normally you would make a trip for something like that, and not that that's going to be replaced. You're still going to be doing that, but I think the willingness to just jump on a call, a video call, and have some discussions with somebody, halfway around the world. Well, that's always been, I guess, possible, but you really didn't do it that much. Now it's a lot more. Like, for instance, how many times have I sat and talked with you guys? I mean, I talk to you on the phone all the time, but it's always been a phone call or whatever. And now, we're on seeing each other, and I didn't have to go to Vancouver, and you didn't have to come to Ohio. So I think that's good. Instead of just regular phone calls, have video calls. I think they're better. So there are a few things about this that I think we'll probably carry on with going forward, as a matter of normal business. Never to replace actual in-site visits. Obviously, I think you're still going to do that, but I think this has been it's been interesting, some of the things we've come up with and some of the remote learning. Another thing we've done is our programmers have done some really innovative things with simulators that will allow them to work remotely with one another. Whereas before they were in the office and they had their hardware all set up, and they would work on code, and they'd have their monitors and their PLCs and stuff like that all set up. Well, now they've worked on some programming that actually helps them be able to keep making progress with that remotely with one another. And as it turns out, we found out that the service guys saw that and instantly saw that as a training tool to be able to work with people who service our equipment all around the world. And so now we have requests for all these 3-day training sessions for us to do that we're doing remotely. And so part of it, I think, is because other people are they're also required to be at home and they're trying to do what they can do, where normally you would have hands-on training where you actually have a piece of equipment and you're showing them how to work on it. And nothing will ever quite take the place of that. But through this, we've this kind of simulator that we've done, we can actually show a group of people how to operate a Marinex system with the actual screen right up in front of them. They can push the buttons. The program doesn't know that it's not on a ship operating a system. It's that realistic. They can actually learn how to operate a ballast water system remotely. And as I say, we have all kinds of requests now for different service teams around the world to sign up for these remote training sessions. So that's been really great. So yeah, as I say, we're trying to figure out ways to make our time as productive as we can, and a few good things have come out of that.
We're all getting very creative.
yeah, creative, and that's definitely good to hear. Looking at the natural progression into the next stage of this to see how it can still be used as an asset. On the other side, as you already mentioned, that Trojan Marinex or the other Trojan technology companies are very close to the chain of the essential services, given that the products from them are going into either to the medical field or to the services that are very needed and essential, let's say on the municipal side or on the marine side. Have you been finding ways to be part of the current situation solution? So for example, let's say LabTest as a certification body, we have given more of a priority to products that are coming in from critical care medical products or pharmaceutical manufacturing, which also falls under hazardous location area. Have you guys looked at some of the ideas or brainstorming done around that to see how you can be part of the solution to this?
I believe some other areas of our company have. I'm not directly involved myself because I'm in the marine side of things. And I'm just imagining. I would imagine any of those who are already dealing with pharmaceutical customers, for instance, or any of those in those kinds of businesses. Obviously, as I say, I know the service end of that business. Making sure that equipment is given first priority for service has been done. So I can imagine the people who deal in those areas are certainly given that a priority.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that pretty much covers it all. I know one of the other things I wanted to ask on the personal side, I know you might have been a lot of Teams calls. Is there any background you have found to be your favorite?
Okay, hold on. I'll give you an example.
I quite like your background. You should copyright it.
This is what I use all the time. I don't really have any extra backgrounds that I normally put up, but when everybody was looking for their favorite backgrounds, I went out and found some pictures. So I'll try to give you one here.
Let's see.
I have a couple.
I'm fortunate enough to work from beach these days.
Yes.
There we go. It was being a little slow.
Some interesting ones.
Yeah.
This is one.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Many folks, let's say the engineering or sciences field, would certainly get this one right away.
Yeah.
That one puts a smile on people's faces if they know the show, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
For those who don't, it's the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Now they can pick it up.
There's another one.
Oh, wow.
Most everybody knows that one too. So.
No, definitely.
Yeah, it
Well,
adds to the fun for sure.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we are at the end of our second podcast, so we made it. This was great. I was thinking, for listeners, if they were interested in what Trojan does, and they would like to get in touch with you, is there maybe like a general email address that they could contact and then be directed to the right department?
You can go to our website at trojanmarinex.com.
Okay.
And there's if you want information or anything like that, there's a place right on there for people to get information, get you in contact with salespeople, and if it's more of a technical question or something like that, it'll get passed on to me or someone in my group.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Well, and we'll also have a slide at the end of this chat to show again the contact information in case somebody missed it. So,
Okay.
well, Glenn, this was great. Thank you so much for your time and for answering some questions that we feel and we think that many people out there might have. Again, we're all in the same boat, so they might be going through similar situations and probably gain some good insights, we're hoping, from your answers. So thank you again for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very well. Thank you for doing this.
Well, you're welcome, and we're really wishing you all the best, and your daughters as well. We're hoping that you can get together really soon.
Yes.
And
yes. True.
So until the next time, we're gonna say bye and stay safe.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.